All good?
Yeah. Okay, good stuff. I think we've got a lot to talk about today. Of course, we're going to start with Gay. And let's have a look at it from a Palace point of view first, I think, because they've been a club that have been on the up for some time. FA Cup win and a lot of admiration for the way they've been going about it, style of play, Glasner, etc. But how much has a disastrous few days really set them back?
Yeah, it's huge. I don't think it can be underestimated how much of an important role Marcus Gay has at Palace. Like, he's the captain. He just seems to lead on and off the pitch. His mannerisms, the way he conducts himself. But his performances have been wonderful for them. They really have. It's the reason why he's getting all this attention. Same with the manager. The manager's getting a lot of attention because of the way Palace have played. But, when you look at those transfers, you think Elise, Eze and Gay, and you've gone Bayern Munich, Arsenal, Man City, and it's Crystal Palace. It's logical that those players have gone on to those clubs. If you're going to be a Palace and you're selling to a West Ham or someone that's in and around with you, you'd be pretty disgruntled. But if you're selling to some of the best teams in world football, you're going, it's understandable. The timing of it for Gay is really important because Palace don't want to lose out on getting something for a player that's on a free. Maybe that's down to them. They should have probably extended his contract sooner so they're in a stronger position. So in board level, was that a mishap? But I suppose they feel like they have to get something from him. Glasner's obviously disgruntled. He's going to be unhappy, isn't he? You're the manager of your club, but you're seeing your biggest players being ripped from underneath you.
Well, three biggest players in 4 windows.
Yeah, it's tough to take. It really is. And because the fact that they've been successful in their own right, they've won a trophy, which is most teams dream of, it's very hard to take for Palace. But with the manager now in turmoil, it's a really tricky situation because they're not only going to have to replace Gay, they're going to have to try and replace him as well, I think, soon, possibly.
What now, then, in terms of the money that they've got from Gay? Did they spend it now? Do they wait until the summer? And how do they find a replacement for him? It's very hard to find someone of the calibre of Mark Gay.
It is very difficult, and I think this is a situation where you empathise on both sides. You empathise with Oliver Glasner. I mean, he even spoke about last week in his news conference about how difficult it is to talk to his own players about having to rebuild each time a star player gets sold. But from a club's perspective, of course, like Steve Parish, Matt Hobbs, who's the sporting director, they obviously have to put the club's best interest at heart. What I would say is we saw his move to Liverpool not materialise in the summer, and a lot of that was down to Palace feeling like they couldn't get a replacement, and Igor Julio ended up going to West Ham, didn't he? And you have to feel, if you're a Crystal Palace fan, that hopefully they do have a plan, and they have communicated that to Glasner when they met with him yesterday, that, look, we know we're losing Mark Gay, we know how much of a blow he will be, but we will try and get a replacement in within the next 2 weeks. What I would also say is they do have Chadi Riyad, who has not quite been fit this season, but they did sign him last summer. And they have JD Canvo, who, yes, is only 20 years old, but they invested in last summer, maybe as a long-term solution. So they're going to maybe have to develop him a lot quicker than they first entailed. But they knew this could happen, though.
The hard thing with Palace is they're trying to appease a manager that looks like 100% he's going to go out an hour in the summer anyway. So it's almost like an interim from now till summer. So you're trying to get someone back on board that you're not going to be able to give full reins to because he might not be in charge when it comes to taking that role. So when it comes to signings and players come in, they have to look at a close perspective and think who's best for the club, not for this manager, which is really interesting.
Yeah. Let's move on to Manchester City then. They were all over the place defensively against Manchester United, weren't they, really? Yeah. United could have scored a lot more than the 2 in the end. A couple of offside decisions that were very tight, and they hit the post and the bar as well. Does Mark Gay come in? Does that one move alone, does that transform them defensively?
Oh, massively gives them an upper hand, I think. Not only are you bringing in someone that you expect is going to start straight away and be able to play the level they want within, there should be no build-up time to him getting into swing of things realistically. You feel that he's going to come in, his attitude seems so spot on that no matter where he plays, he's going to be comfortable. And no, you're doing that, but you're also stopping him going to one of your rivals, which is really important because Arsenal and Liverpool would have had invested interest in bringing Gay in because they know how important he could be for that back 4 role. There's nothing more evident than the weekend how City have struggled defensively. I think they have done all season slightly. injuries now on top of that, it's massive that they've got him through the door, and that could be the difference with giving them that push to really try and challenge Arsenal or dropping off.
It's also future-proofing their defence, isn't it? Because in the summer, John Stones is out of contract, of course. He's also been suffering with different injuries over the last few years, you would say, as well. Nathan Ake has... Pep Guardiola has even admitted that he struggled to play consecutive games in a row. So when all these defenders are back, Ruben Diaz, Josko Gvardiol, you are essentially looking at perhaps a partnership for years in terms of Ruben Diaz and Mark Gay, and Gvardiol can of course play there, but we've seen him more deployed as a left back. So I think for Pep Guardiola, Manchester City, you now have a partnership, hopefully if everyone stays fit, for years to come to challenge.
That's a good point, actually. What do you think is their first choice? If everyone's fit, what would be their first choice centre-back pairing? You've got Gvardiol, you've got Diaz, you've got Kusanov, and you've got Gay. They're all or Chuck Stones in there just in case he stays. Who would be their starting pairing? Eventually,
I think it'll be Gay and Gvardiol. That's for me. I just think that that looks like a lovely, well-balanced left-footed centre-back, right-footed centre-back, pace, energy, youth on their side, loads of experience from both of them already. I think that going forward looks like a really, really solid partnership. But now Diaz will...
Diaz on the bench,
if going forward, but I think Diaz will play now because of his captain, because of his experience. I think he comes into that. But going forward for City in the long term, those two seem like it could be a wonderful partnership.
Let's finish off just by mentioning something that Chris talked about there. I mean, it's not just Gay and Glasner that Palace should be worried about, because Glasner also revealed that they would listen for offers for JP Mateta, their star striker. So, I mean, if he goes, imagine the reaction from Glasner. We're going to get another interesting press conference, I think. What is the latest on Mateta?
Yeah, I mean, it's very, very interesting. So Juventus are interested in his potential signing. We know that they've approached Crystal Palace over what could be a loan with an obligation to buy in the summer under certain conditions. Maybe just over £26 million their valuation of Mateta is. Now, our colleague in Sky, so Gianluca Di Marzio, has said the Palace have rejected any approach, so we'll see whether that materialises going forward. First of all, on paper, if they are in negotiations, if Palace are willing to entertain any sort of offer for Mateta, I'd be asking for at least a forward back from Juventus. I mean, they have the likes of Jonathan David, who hasn't maybe enjoyed Serie A as much since his move from Liga. They also have Luis Openda as well, who's been on the bench. So if I was Crystal Palace, Matt Hobbs, I'd be saying maybe we would entertain Mateta leaving because his goal scoring hasn't been maybe where we've seen in previous. But absolutely, we need someone back if we're going to replace him.
Yeah, 100%. I think to lose both of those players in one window would be... And I think what's quite funny is Glasner coming out and saying, obviously that's a conversation he's probably had with the board or people behind the scenes saying, listen, we are open for offers. The fact that he's just come out and openly said that in a press conference is just doubling down on his disgruntledness with the people behind the scenes and showing that he has no control over what's happening. As much as they want to say, you're in charge, things dictate what happens at that club, because financially they're going to look to be getting money in for their biggest assets. But they do. If they let him go, I think that's a huge pivotal player again in the central areas that they need to replace. And there's not long left in this window to really identify someone that can come in and do a like-for-like job straight away.
All right.